This tutorial is for 5th grade, Module 5, Lesson 6. In this lesson, we're going to find the volume of composite figures. Composite figures are figures that are made of more than one shape. In my first problem, I have two prisms that are stacked on top of each other, and you can see the dimensions. I'm going to first find the volume of prism A, and then I'll find the volume of prism B, and I'll combine them for the total volume of the whole shape. So prism A is the top prism. I need to find the dimension of the length, which is going across the front of the shape. While on prism B, the length is 10 centimeters. That would be this distance. So in prism A, it's the same distance. So this would also be 10 centimeters. So I'll put that down. We have 10 centimeters. The width shows how far back the prism goes. Well, in prism B, the width was 3, so in prism A, the width will also be 3 centimeters. And 5 centimeters would represent the height of prism A. And in the previous lesson, we saw that if we multiply the length times the width times the height, we'll get the volume. Well, 10 times 3 is 30. 30 times 5 is 150. So the volume of prism A is 100 cubic centimeters. In prism B, I also have a length of 10 centimeters and a width of 3 centimeters and a height of 5 centimeters. So 10 times 3 times 5 again is 150 cubic centimeters. To find the volume of the entire shape then, I just need to add my two answers. 150 plus 150 would be 300 cubic centimeters, and that represents the volume of the entire shape. Let's look at another example. This time I have prism C that's sitting on top of prism D. So again, I have to determine the length, the width, and the height for prism C. Well, for C, we can see that the length is 7 inches, so I'll mark that down. The width is how far back the prism goes, while the width would be the same as the width of prism D. So this distance and this distance is the same because prism C sits exactly on top of prism D, so they have the same width, and that's 4 inches. And 3 inches over here will show us how high that prism is. So the height is 3 inches. Now I have to multiply these numbers to determine the volume. I'm going to start by multiplying my 4 and my 3. That will give me 12, and then I can easily multiply 12 times 7 to get a volume of 84 cubic inches for prism C. For prism D, I'll start again with the length. This one has a length of 15 inches, and then we determined that the width was 4 inches. And here I have a height of 6 inches. And now I have to multiply these three numbers to find the volume of prism D. Well, I can take 4 times 15. 2 times 15 would be 30. So 4 times 15 is 60. 60 times 6 would be a total of 360 cubic inches for prism D. Now I just need to combine these two to come up with my total. Well, let's break the 84 into 44 and 40. So I can combine my 40 with my 360. That would give me 400, and then add 44 onto that. So my total volume would be 444 cubic inches, and that's for the entire figure C and D put together. Let's look at one more example. Here I have prism A sitting on top of prism B. I need to find the length, the width, and the height for prism A. Well, the length would be this distance right in the front. but we don't have any markings that would tell us what this distance is. What I do know though is all of prism B is 10 centimeters, and where prism A sits on top of prism B is 6 centimeters. So this length must be 4 centimeters because this distance and this distance together have to equal 10 centimeters. So the length of prism A is 4 centimeters. The width would be represented by the 3. The width of prism B is 3 centimeters. Prism A sits exactly on top of it, so that would also be 3. And 4 centimeters tells us the height of prism A. So 4 centimeters. Now to find the volume, I'll take 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 4 is 48. So the volume of prism A is 48 cubic centimeters. Now let's find prism B. So we can see that the length was 10 centimeters. And again, the width going back is 3 centimeters. And the height for prism B is right here, and that's 2 centimeters. To find the volume, I can take 10 times 3 and get 30. 30 times 2 is 60. So the volume of prism B is 60 cubic centimeters. To find the volume of the entire shape, I just need to add these two answers, 48 plus 60. Well, 60 plus 40 would be 100. If I add 8 more, I would get a volume of 108 cubic centimeters that make up the entire composite shape. So we're just using that same method of finding the volume and then combining the shapes to get our total volume.